Okay, we're going to do a little after video shoot here. We're going to talk to Kobe. Kobe, I know you've been here for a while, about 6 months, I think. What is it that you liked about what we do here?
What I think has been the most effective for me is how initially my consult came actually because even though, like we've already discussed in the video, I've been doing the bodybuilding stuff for years and I was staunch or loyal to it, whatever you would want to call it, whatever word you want to use. I had actually reached a point where due to, we worked on one today, but the tightness and the restriction on the left side between my lat and maybe my rear delt and things like that, and actually my hip on my left side, I kind of stopped going to the gym because it wasn't as enjoyable for me. And as someone doing the bodybuilding stuff, you know, the mind-muscle connection, I felt like I had a pretty adept version of that for at least myself, and I could feel these problems and stuff. And so just doing different exercises, I wasn't able to take the same sort of positioning to get the same sort of, like, let's say pull in a row or things specifically with like the left side of my back. Even with my hip, which we have just freed up recently, I couldn't sit in the same positions, I couldn't do the same sort of things, and it drove me to the point where I started to not enjoy going to the gym. And I knew that was a major problem for me because this was something that I easily, I say easily as in willingly, it was not easy to do, but dedicated my life to it pretty much for 5 years. And now I find myself in this point where I'm like, my fiance would go to the gym by herself and I'm like, I don't really want to go today. I just don't. There was like this constant reminder that I had problems or things going on every time that I went.
Sure.
And I couldn't, you know, you can look around the internet, watch videos and stuff, but it's different when you have like an expert in person. And I couldn't find anything like that. So I'm like, man, am I doomed? I started thinking like, was I born with one leg shorter than the other? Like, is this all this crazy stuff? And then, so I was honestly at this sort of ultimatum towards the beginning of this year, like, man, are you gonna stop working out and, or are you gonna try to do something about it? So that is what actually got me to do, even just schedule a consult. And then when I came here and we did the assessment, that already went like, I'd say at least 2 notches above what I expected, and more of like, okay, what just hurts, what's this? But here I was filling out all this stuff, you know, what's happened in the past, what's been this, what do you think? And then the testing and the things we did with the computer and just how different parts of my brain or the brain respond to different things that I was having trouble with. And I started to see this sort of map that you're putting together about how all of this stuff is really interconnected, and what the benefits of, don't want to say reprogramming, but
we start doing
applying
therapy
to them, and when this therapy is receptive, as you say, sometimes some things aren't receptive to therapy, but to just start to see the improvements, and even before the improvements, just the way that you could speak and the ideas, I knew you knew what you were talking about. So I'm like, okay, now this is actually might have been the kind of guy I was looking for, you know, on the internet and on YouTube and stuff like that. So to just kind of speed it up, I would say, gosh, even 2 to 3 weeks into it, and you started explaining things to me that had to do with mainly neurobiology, but even biomechanics and like static biomechanics and dynamics and the difference with the movements and the signaling from the, you know, different lobes of the brain, the ascending tracts, the axons, the synapses, how these guys are talking to each other, and how it coordinates into like your proprioception or your proprioceptive system, your somatosensory system. These were terms and things that I had no idea, no idea what they
mean
and what they entailed. And so I'm trying to find, you know, why does this hurt? Why is this tight? Why does that restrict this? And then here I am, I have this expert who's saying, oh, this is this. You're kind of answering the questions that I have as you're going through and assessing things and saying, oh, okay, this is this. And so to gain that knowledge as a resistance training athlete and knowing like the feedback, the input sensory information that I'm getting through all these different neuromotor pathways, different things like kinetics even, when you're explaining to me closed loop feedback systems, open loop feedback systems, what they mean, how you can manipulate them, how, if you're good at them, what they mean about different parts of your brain. Same thing with like the kinematic chains, open kinematic change, closed one, just all this different stuff that would be hard for me to piece together on my own. It was and is the best thing for me here is being able to come and kind of bounce that off of you or talk to you or ask you questions, because it does directly translate over into specifically resistance training. I personally think it translates into all aspects of your life, but specifically as a bodybuilder or a mainly resistance training athlete, to understand, like I said, going back to the terms, the neuromotor pathways, the signaling of the pathways, which the proprioceptive system, which dealing with your body in space. So when you're doing this 500-pound squat, how making sure your knee is actually where you think it is, and you don't get under the squat with
and
the knee out of place, and you blow it right, exactly. And
so the end result of all this is that you improve function.
Yeah, in all aspects of everything. And
And
it's
you
just,
do it. I don't always get long-winded with the explanations that someone really wants to know, because this can be some really intense neurology left unchecked, and we don't ever want to leave people like confused, because this stuff can get confusing. So I try to sort it out and make it simple, but it does help that you have a background in some things, and I'm glad it changed your life, and now you know how to live to 100.
Yeah.
Have fun.
I
That's what life is about.
Yeah, I
Too many
definitely
people are
think,
living life and they're in pain all the time. It's ridiculous.
I definitely think these being such complicated topics, that you do a good job of getting them down to the vernacular. And of course, I ask these more in-depth questions, which require more elaborate backgrounds, but I think it's very easy to learn something in here every time you come out, even if you don't try to, just with how you break things down. And I think that is and a positive in value to the whole experience. Is it's like you kind of learn something for free. A couple of years, you know, what will you know? So yeah.
So you guys watching this video, if you're ever having problems, you know where to go.
Come see Dr. John.
All right.
Perfect.
That was good. Cool.